to Bibliorex, where we ruin your childhood. I'm Bugs.
And I'm Bam Bam, and I'm combative today.
We are doing The Lightning Thief.
We are.
By Rick Riordan.
I think it's Riordan.
Riordan?
Yeah, that's how I always read it too as a kid, is Riordan. So.
Well, I apologize if I'm not saying it right.
What do you think of the book?
I enjoyed it when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think I read it when I was about 18.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fine. It was the same as a ton of other young adult hero's journey kids books.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I saw the movie. Like, I must have at some point,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't really remember it.
Yeah.
So watching the movie this week, I was like, oh, they changed a lot.
Yeah. So I loved this entire series as a kid, and I've had a vehement black hatred for the movie ever since it came out.
And you see, I'm the purist. I'm always the one who's like, they changed it. And this time, I was only partway through the book. And then I watched the movie, and I didn't realize how much they changed until I went back and finished the book, because I was trying to get this all done this week in a couple of days.
I kind of did that too, because I watched the movie first and took the notes, and I didn't think I was going to finish the book as fast, but I started remembering everything, so I just listened to it at 2 times speed, and I got it read in like 4 hours.
Yeah. They changed so much.
Yeah,
like,
mostly
so
like the middle of the
much.
plot and a lot of the good detail stuff.
A lot of the plot, they changed the characters quite a bit, because the Ares, the god of war, wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, no Clarice.
No
Or
Clarice.
Clarissa.
They took away the fact that Grover got to use the shoes, the flying shoes. He had them in the book and used
Yeah.
them quite a bit.
See, that was something I really liked about the books.
They included Annabeth and Grover in doing things.
It wasn't just Percy doing everything. And one of the things I really liked is Rick Riordan let Percy just kind of be an idiot. And I always like that, because he just doesn't have to be like the perfect hero in every situation like in most stuff you read as a kid.
Yes, I felt like that was part of the charm of the book, was the fact that Percy is bad at all these things, and he gets supercharged from water, but it only supercharges the things he's okay at.
Yeah,
it doesn't magically make him best at everything.
Yeah, he's still not very smart.
No, and he still is just ADHD, like jumps around and doesn't pay attention. And I think that was part of its really big appeal to kids, was I struggle with these things. This sounds like me.
Did you look into anything about the author, his life at all?
No, but I saw a picture and he had a big white beard.
Yeah,
and I was like,
old.
oh, he's old. I was surprised by that.
Well, I think when he wrote this, he was 39.
Okay.
Yeah. And I found this out, and this is heartbreaking, I'm not sure. It's really heartfelt. I think that's the word I was looking for. He wrote the story originally to entertain his son, because his son had ADD and dyslexia. So he was like really struggling in school. He was also a teacher. So he kept his kid engaged in a lot of schooling stuff using Greek mythology, but he ran out of Greek mythology to tell him about, so he started writing his own stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because similar to the way The Hobbit was written for Tolkien's son, it's kind of like good storytelling often does happen at home.
Yeah. I just thought that was really nice.
That is nice. So our criticisms are not going to really be the structure or the plot. My issue is core messaging.
Yeah, a lot of what's implied in the story is problematic, which I don't... Riordan, I don't think he really meant to
I don't think
put
he
it out like
intended, but it definitely still came through.
Yeah, it's like that one article that it lets a lot of other problematic stuff in through the door with it.
Yes, and I'll post it on Facebook, the 2 articles, when we release this episode. I had read one of those articles a long time ago, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That makes sense. The idea is Greek mythology moved, those gods, the Greek gods, moved to Rome.
With the concept of Western civilization.
And then they moved to Germany.
And then to Great Britain.
And to Great Britain for centuries, and then they moved to the U.S.
With imperialistic colonization.
Yes, and where colonization and great white men existed, that's where the gods were.
Yeah, and that's in just this story, some of their mythology, like George Washington, Winston Churchill, they were all demigod children.
They were children of the gods, too.
Hitler.
And yes, the idea is that Hitler was Hades' son. And they are very kind of explicit about how all of these very much white people, not the Japanese, not Africans, not other people, are descended from the demigods. And I know he changed later on. He brought in other people.
Yeah, he got a lot better at being diverse. He went outside of America because there was also an element of American chauvinism.
Yes, where it's very central to, like, they're above the Empire State Building. The entrance to Hades is in Hollywood. And I understand you're trying to keep your character in America, and it's an American youth.
Kind of just showcasing America to children a little bit, which I thought was kind of nice, because 90% of children in America probably won't ever leave the country.
They don't get to, well, and they don't even get to travel across the country that much.
Yeah, but something like seeing the Hollywood sign or going to New York and seeing the Empire State Building, that's something fairly attainable for a kid. Yeah.
Yes. And so our issues are with this book and this at this point of his career and the messaging. And I have a couple criticisms that I don't know if you'll agree with.
I'm ready to fight.
I hate stories aimed at children that gives you powers through blood. I don't like kings. I don't like queens. I don't like royalty. The idea that being royalty gives you special powers pisses me off.
Yeah, I guess that makes kind of sense.
Because I think that is anti-democratic. I think that's anti-American to have this. And I feel like you probably haven't seen The Princess Diaries, but she wakes up and finds out her dad's actually a prince.
Oh, okay.
And she is going to be heir to the throne and has to develop the skills of a princess. And they fix up her hair and make her pretty and buy her clothes. All that
just
stuff.
the concept that royalty is
special
a bloodline
and different
trait.
Yeah, special and different. In Princess Diaries, they show, oh, the friends you had before are your true friends. The new friends who want to be your friend because you're a princess, they're fake. They're shallow.
Yeah.
You need to stay friends with the ones who always loved you. And those authentic connections are still important. Percy Jackson, much like Harry Potter, goes to this new world, and that is his family now. They're blood, and they are his family. Everyone else he knew doesn't matter, to the point that his mother cannot even enter Camp Half-Blood. She cannot enter Olympus. There's a physical barrier.
Yeah, there's
she
like
is
an
segregated.
othering.
To the point that his sword, that he's told it won't kill mortals because they're not important enough for the sword to kill them.
Yeah.
So my big issue is this makes children feel, I wish I was special. I wish I had a parent who had this blood who would make me special.
Yeah.
And I think that is bad messaging to children because every child has gifts. Every child has a valid way to be themselves and to be their own unique person.
Yeah.
And this creates an unattainable fantasy.
And it kind of just promotes that natural inclination for people to just other people, just
And it
anyone not in
creates-
the in-group.
Yes. And it creates superiority based on blood. To
Which
the
America is pretty bad about anyway.
Which we're pretty bad about anyway. To the point that they kneel to Percy at the camp when they find out his dad is Poseidon. And I'm like, that's just kind of gross.
Yeah.
And so I guess we can go over the plot really quick.
Yeah.
And those are just kind of my big, why I have a problem with it.
Yeah. Which I think a lot of that, I don't know if you can have like a story like this with that, because that's just it's really just a theme of Greek mythology in general. rather than just being totally Riordan's fault. I mean, he plays his element. He's the one who wrote these stories, so he plays his part. But I don't know that you could have a story about Greek gods or demigods and anything like that and not have this theme of like bloodlines, because that was just such a continuous thing in Greek mythology itself.
Right. And I guess part of that might, well, I just kept feeling like, okay, but where's the gods of the other people? Native Americans, their gods would still be here, and they would have been here for a long time.
Yeah.
And they would be more powerful because they're in their homeland.
Yeah.
You would have had, Chinese heroes. You would have had, African heroes. And I know he comes in later, but it just feels myopic.
Yeah.
It just feels very white-centric and very whitewashed child's Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Like, they very much take the child's version that's watered down, cleaned up. Pan does not have an erection.
Yeah.
And
I felt like that should have came up in the movie with Grover.
I mean, satyrs were not kindly friends.
Nah, in a lot of
any
stories they
those
were just
stories.
rapists.
Yes. Or tricksters, or just they were more of that neutral, they have their own things to attend to.
I mean, generally most everybody in Greek mythology was just kind of a bastard anyway, so, they're no exception.
So Percy Jackson is about a boy who has ADHD.
Yeah.
He's dyslexic.
In the book, he's 12?
In the book, he's 12, and
Yeah.
Grover is 13.
Yeah.
In the movie, Grover is played by a 28-year-old who looks like a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
And even the kid who played Percy was 18.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't care for the actors.
I felt like Grover was sweet in the movie. He was funny.
I felt like he was fine. I felt like he was doing his best Chris Tucker impression.
And he was doing the best with what he had.
Yeah.
They did not give him much. They gave him, he's a ladies' man, and he's black, and and that's
there's your
all he
character
has.
traits.
Yes.
So he's constantly having to move schools. He's getting in trouble.
And he's a much more troubled kid in the book. In the movie, they take away all that.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not really his fault. Like the stories or the movie seems to be blaming it like on the teacher just kind of being a bitch to him.
Right, but in the book, it's very clear he actually does enjoy making trouble. He pisses off the gods on purpose. He is rude, and he's aggravating, and that's part of his appeal.
Yeah, it's kind of got a charm to it.
Yeah, because it's more honest. Sometimes kids are dicks, and they know, and eventually, hopefully, they'll grow into adults who aren't dicks. But it felt a lot more authentic, and Percy in the movie was
just
too perfect. Too perfect.
Yeah. I just felt like he was really, like, there was no personality there. He didn't have, like, book Percy's, like, snark or anything like that made him, like, an actual character to himself. It just felt like, honestly, he just felt like Aragon. That's how he felt to me.
Like movie Aragon?
Yeah, movie Aragon.
Because book Aragon was a bit darker. Yeah, let's get through the plot.
Right. So he kills his teacher.
Well, you're not telling the story as
Well,
the
I'm
plot.
skipping details.
Here, okay. Let me give the basic plot. Movie plot, very basic. Kid wakes up. Kid is good in water. He one day finds out that all of the Greek myths are true. The harpy was his teacher. She attacks him. He finds out his teacher was actually a centaur, and his best friend Grover is not a disabled kid. He is a satyr. He goes to
Camp Half-Blood.
Camp Half-Blood. His mom is taking him there. They get attacked by a minotaur.
And she gets fridged.
She gets fridged. He fights the minotaur and kills it because he's special. So he and Grover make it to Camp Half-Blood, which is the place where all of the demigods go, who are the children of the Greek gods who live in the U.S. now. There he gains skills, powers. They find out he's the son of Poseidon.
And gains a quest.
Gets a quest. His quest has 3 parts. Because they're trying to get 3 pearls that will get them out of Hades. Because they want to go to Hades and get his mom back. He was accused of stealing Zeus's thunderbolt.
Yeah, and Zeus is getting ready to start a fucking war with everybody because
with
he's
Poseidon.
just an ass.
He's just an ass. But that is true to the mythology.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. He's always been a dick.
Yeah. But because he's Poseidon's son, everyone's accusing him of stealing it. And he is wanting to just go to Hades, get his mom back. They run into Medusa. They find one of the pearls there. They kill her. They go to the Parthenon.
Yeah, Parthenon,
In Tennessee. They get the other pearl there, and they fight a Hydra.
And that's just the movie.
That's just the movie. It wasn't in the
book. They go to other places. They go to...
Well, they weren't seeking pearls in the book. That was a one-off giving them gifts from some lady in the water.
Yeah.
But in the movie, the third place they go is the Lotus Eater Casino. They get lost in there for a while, and then they find the third pearl. They manage to leave. They go to Hollywood. They enter Hades.
Confront Hades. His wife beats him up.
They figure out that the shield Luke had given him has the lightning bolt in it, and so they were carrying it the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was a setup. She grabs it and Persephone uses it to smack Hades down.
And then Percy, Annabeth, and Percy's mom use the pearls. Yeah, Sally.
And Grover stays behind
to
where
fuck Persephone.
She seemed like she was going to rape him.
Yeah.
It was a very aggressive Persephone.
If I was her, just anybody that wasn't Hades, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they return to
Olympus,
New York.
Yeah, because that's where the Empire State Building, and that's where Olympus is now.
And they go up to get to the top of the Empire State Building.
And in the movie, they fight Luke.
That's where he fights Luke with his flying shoes.
Yeah.
Luke was the one who actually stole the lightning bolt, set up Percy. He wants there to be war among the gods because they ignore their children and they're all douchebags.
Fair, yeah.
I was like, why is he wrong? Are these kids just defending the gods because that's their parents and they have some weird loyalty to them?
In the book, it's a little bit more...
It's more nuanced in the book.
Well... Yes, but it's also to specifically save Western... It's not to save the world, it's to save Western civilization.
But it's also Kronos, who is manipulating Ares, the god of war, and Luke.
And he specifically just wants to destroy the gods so he can get out of hell.
He wants to destroy Western civilization, make men crawl back into their holes, and so he can rule again. Percy wins. Percy takes the lightning bolt back to Olympus, and he says, I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault. I'm sorry. Please don't fight.
And then his ginger Poseidon dad... he's just like, I'm proud of you, son, and...
It's a very simple, sweet wrap-up. They go back to Camp Half-Blood, and then Percy goes home with the Medusa head, leaves it in the fridge, and so his stinky, nasty stepdad sees the sign on the door.
Yeah, and he gets... Oh, yeah, that's right. Why was I thinking Ronnie?
I don't know. There's a sign, never ever open the fridge, and he's like, ah, ha, ha, and he opens the door and gets frozen by Medusa.
And that statue pays for Percy's mom's college.
In the book, not in the movie.
Yeah.
In the movie, it's just kind of like an ha-ha.
Yeah, they didn't want to spend the time dealing with
anything.
I did like that.
Or the ethics of even Percy doing that to his stepdad.
Which in the book
Mom was kicking him out when he goes and gets into the fridge.
Yeah.
So she had already made the decision of, I no longer have to protect Percy, so I can kick out the stinky guy. In the book, it was more complicated.
Yeah. Which it always is.
So movie, it's a very basic hero's journey, only the twist is he is half Greek demigod, and a lot of the mythology is just based on that. They simplify it and water it down in the movie.
Take out a lot of the rape.
Is there any... Well...
In actual Greek mythology, yeah.
No, I mean, even in the book, they do say, like, love-crazed naiads a few times.
Yeah.
But they really completely skip a lot of that.
Yeah.
It is aimed at children.
Yeah, so I don't blame them.
I don't blame them. But it also is, if you go and read the original stories, they are full of rape. Zeus is out raping everybody.
Yeah, and specifically, like, Medusa, because I was confused going back, and I think I just had this thought while I was watching the movie. Medusa should hate Percy way more than she hates Annabeth, because Poseidon raped Medusa in Athena's temple.
Well, in the book, they make it as a consensual boyfriend-girlfriend
Yeah,
thing.
which probably the better move. But I feel like she should hate Percy.
I
Because
mean, and
I
she
hate
had-
Percy in the
She
movie.
had reasons to hate all of them. So that's the basic plot of the movie. Book, more layers, more characters, a lot more characters.
A lot better adventures too. Like
Better
the whole
adventure.
thing with Ares is like a little side quest they get to go on.
And Annabeth has a hat that makes her invisible, and she gets to do a lot of cool stuff with that.
And Grover gets the shoes, and that's actually a key point in the story that Grover got the shoes.
And he uses them to save the day, and he almost gets thrown into Tartarus with Kronos because the shoes were a trick.
Yeah, a trap meant for Percy to get the lightning bolt down in Tartarus forever.
And so we have two twists in the book. The first twist is who is his dad? Because in the book, it's explained that Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades swore after World War II to never have children again. Their children were too powerful and too violent, and they caused too many problems. And Zeus had broken his promise and had Thalia, who died on her way to Camp Half-Blood. And then Poseidon had fallen in love with Sally and had him secretly. We don't know Poseidon's his dad. They have hints of like, oh, he's good in water, he's good at swimming. Movie, we skip that. We skip it.
Yeah,
we know instantly his dad is Poseidon.
Yeah,
he's
because at
sitting
the
in
very
water.
first part of the movie,
He's underwater for 7 minutes. There's no question. Book, they do make it, here, Poseidon is now declaring this is his son.
Yeah, because if
he has
you're-
water healing powers.
because if you're like a kid reading this and going with like any knowledge of Greek mythology at all, you might expect like a Hercules story. You might expect it to just be Zeus, but I feel like this kind of showcases a little bit lesser known god, which I know Poseidon is one of the main ones, but to like a kid who only sees like the big idols like Zeus and Hercules, stuff like that. So that'd be kind of cool.
And
I
if you
think.
grew up watching like Disney, with Hercules and some of these other characters you kind of pick up in pop culture, it would actually be like, oh, I know so much more Greek mythology now just by reading this book.
Yeah.
Which when you're 12 or 13, it's like, oh, I know this cool thing other people don't know.
Yeah, that was-
I know who Ares, the god of war, is
That
now.
was absolutely a thing I loved about the book when I was a kid, because I didn't know shit about Perseus, like the story of Perseus killing Medusa and stuff like that, until I read this book, and then I started looking up other stuff, because regular, like Disney, it doesn't really go into like a lot of the legends, except for like some of the tongue-in-cheek moments, like the pelt from the Nemean lion and stuff like that, which you wouldn't know that unless you actually knew the story, and I was like 5 when I watched
Did
Hercules.
you ever watch Jason and the Argonauts or a couple of those
Was that
other...
awful claymation fucker with the skeletons?
Yeah.
I remember it, and I was terrified just because of the way the skeletons move.
Yes,
I hated that.
I loved those ones. And then there was it the Golden Fleece? I don't know if that was a different movie or that was in that same movie.
I think that was the same, because I know one of the main quests that Jason and the Argonauts went on was for the Golden Fleece.
That may
I know
have
they
been
did
at the
other
end of
stuff,
that movie.
but yeah.
And there was a couple other ones that were the Harryhausen, the guy who did that claymation monster stuff.
Yeah.
There was a couple other Greek mythology stories that he did. So I had more of an idea of those
Yeah, that
from
was
when
the-
I was a kid.
That was that era where they had like a lot of the Greek mythology stuff just be like robots and stuff for some reason. Like the robot owl. And
yeah.
there was this horrible Hercules movie with Lou Ferrigno, the guy who played the Hulk back in the 70s, and he was deaf.
I think I saw that one too.
Yeah, that one was weird. He got attacked by the Hydra, but the Hydra was just this horrible thing made out of chains and sprockets and shit.
I found it amusing when I was like 8.
I was like 16 when I watched it. I was like, this is the
Oh.
biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life.
If I hadn't watched it till I was a teen, I would have been like, that.
So in the movie, my first thought was, oh yeah, Sean Bean is in this and he doesn't die.
I forgot that Sean Bean was in this, and it had Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
Had some big names.
Uma Thurman must have, I hope she got a big fucking check for this movie.
Pierce Brosnan? I
Yeah,
can't
oh my
believe
god.
that.
I kept looking at him. I was like, why is he keeps doing that I'm a really hot guy, so I'm kind of going to do that squint thing
I'm
constantly.
going to do the smoky
Yeah,
like The Rock has.
Yeah,
Smoldering
that
gaze.
smolder, yeah.
Smolder. Jay was like, hey, it's 007.
But I kept thinking, like, why is he so hot? And then Lily said, that's Pierce Brosnan. I was like, oh!
I was surprised. I guess kind of like Aragon, where it's like a kid's movie and you're not expecting some of these bigger named actors to be in it. I think they were hoping it would be more of a hit than it was. I guess it was fairly popular when it came out.
Oh, this movie? I didn't think so. I thought it was a huge piece of shit. I'm still mad at it, and it's been like 15 years or more.
And Jay said, it would be funny to ride Pierce Brosnan around. Because he's the centaur.
Yeah. Okay, let me
And I was
get
like,
your...
that could be taken two ways, Jay.
I mean...
He's hot.
Let me get you guys' opinion on this. Centaurs, where are the lungs and guts and stuff?
We argued that too. I said they have to have 4 lungs because human lungs wouldn't be enough for a horse body. So they have to have a set of horse lungs and a set of human lungs.
Okay, so what I was thinking, like, all the guts and stuff would be in the horse body, and you would just have, like, extra musculature and structure in the human part.
Could be.
I wouldn't think that you'd put all the guts in the human part. That wouldn't...
I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense anyway, but...
Are centaurs an insect?
I mean, they are 6 legs,
Yeah,
6
legs
limbs.
and 3 segments.
So, in the movie, me and Lily were just kind of ragging on it. When he's in the pool and he gets out and he's talking to Grover and he's like, I think better underwater. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you don't need all that stupid oxygen in your way, getting in the way of your thoughts, you idiot.
And it's like, that is just such an obvious tell. But then and I thought, oh, it's going to be more of a surprise because I'd gotten like a couple hours into the book. And then, oh, it's no surprise. And we're just putting him in cabin 3. It kind of bothers me how they have the camp separated by whose parent you have. And that's the cabin you're stuck in.
Yeah.
And this is just something that is not really relevant to a child's story. But those kids are going to be fucking. And they're siblings.
Yeah.
And that's going to have children who are demigods.
I mean, yeah.
And I'm just like, I understand that this is a kid's story and no one's having sex because they're 12.
I mean, all of the gods anyway were already siblings as it was. So,
and they're all
for
related,
some reason,
they're
that
all
doesn't
family.
apply. Yeah.
But I think that if you actually mix a bunch of teenagers in who haven't met each other, it doesn't matter if they have the same dad that they never met. And also in the book, it's very, very much emphasized how they all look the same. All of Athena's children have blonde hair and gray eyes. And they have these certain abilities. And then Ares' kids are all really angry and broody.
Yeah, they kind of take on their godparents' personality a little bit.
Yes, and it's like... I understand, and Percy is especially special because he's the only kid of Poseidon in all this time, and Poseidon loved his mom, and it just makes him more special among the special kids.
Yeah.
It's like Harry Potter being the chosen one, the special boy, the thing, and it's just felt like...
I mean, you gotta have your chosen ones. That's just how
I know.
these movies... It does suck. I don't like it either.
I get so tired of these same tropes in all the kids' stories over and over and over and over.
Oh, so how did you feel about the whole dyslexia thing? Like the explanation that their brains were trying to read Greek?
I found that to be bullshit, too.
Yeah, I didn't really... Because that would be... trying to say, because I know it's magic, but that's like saying there's a genetic factor that helps you read Greek.
And it's like no child is born knowing how to read something and not read something else.
Yeah.
I felt like he was just trying to make his kid feel better.
Yeah,
about his
which I
dyslexia,
think is nice.
Which is fine.
Because there's so much opposition to a kid.
I just feel like it reinforces that this blood makes you special. You are born special. Nothing you do will ever change how special you are. And it just sets you up for failure because you're either going to never match what people are expecting of you, or you're just going to be a prick because you're already so special.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's just a bad premise.
Yeah.
At least in Aragon, he got the egg because he found it, and he became a dragon rider because he found her.
Yeah. Yeah, and that could be
know?
feasibly happen to anybody.
Right. And, I just feel like these other ones where you have a kid become special and they have these different abilities, I just feel like it's better when it's not so much tied to lineage and blood and
See,
royalty.
I just don't like the concept of teaching kids destiny. I don't think that's something great for kids. Like, it just takes their agency and their choice out of the equation.
What did you think? I thought it was interesting how the book dealt with the oracle and the prophecy. They completely skip all of that in the movie.
Yeah.
But they do the twist of someone who calls you friend will betray you.
Yeah, kind of
and
that
he
backwards.
Was like waiting for it to happen because he kept thinking Grover.
He's like, oh, it must have been
would do
Aries.
something.
Yeah, at the end.
He's like, maybe it was Aries because he pretended to be my friend, and then it's Luke.
Yeah, and all the elements are there. You could have feasibly figured it out for yourself if you're like a really clever kid or something.
But in the movie, Luke is being way too helpful, way too fast.
In the movie, because I hadn't reread the book yet, and I was like, why is he being so helpful? Which,
Jay pointed that out. He's like, what's up with Luke? Why is he acting that way? I'm like, I don't remember.
Which, I mean, that does set him up to have the bolt in Hades' realm in front of Hades. So I don't know how he planned that out. So...
It just really just simplified.
Yeah, it's just
a
contrivance.
lot.
It's just,
and I think it was just to make it shorter and more actiony.
Yeah.
There's a lot of action in the movie.
It was a Disney movie for kids. They're not going to really critique the hell out of it unless you were like me. And I just fucking hated it.
And I think if you had read the book and were expecting this really great big adventure, it would be really disappointing.
Yeah, I
to watch
was
the
so
movie.
disappointed. I hate that they picked some of these actors, specifically the ones they picked for Percy and Annabeth.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're so pale and blue-eyed, and just something about that 2010s era actor's choice going on back then. I just despise it. I hate all the movies from that era just because they kept picking the same ass-looking actors at that time.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like, they have the same kind of look as, like, the kids who were in...
Hunger Games. And Maze Runner. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very much of the look of all the kid movies. And Disney kid actors had a very specific look, too. I was like, wait, did I miss that Grover was black? And then I went back, and apparently in the book, they never mention skin tone.
No, Rick Riordan, in the first book, he doesn't really mention anything. It's left very vague.
All we know is he has brown curly hair, and that's it.
Which, that would be fine if he left it vague like that forever, so then just any kid could insert whoever they wanted. But later on in the other books, he does start actually specifically pointing out the races and ethnicities of the characters, so that you know that there is an amount of diversity.
Right.
So.
In the book, the only brown person that I noticed was Medusa, and she was put in a Islamic
yeah, she had a Middle Eastern accent.
Yeah, but she was also put in the what's that garment with the veil?
Is it a hijab?
Yeah, she was in a hijab, but with a full face veil, like it covered her eyes too.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Right, because it's Medusa. But in the book, she's Middle Eastern. She's very grandmotherly. She has old brown skin, hands. She's cooking for them. She's actually very sweet and sympathetic in the book.
Which, in actual Greek mythology, makes sense because
yes.
she was just a normal lady who just got fucked over by Athena, and I mean also Poseidon, quite literally.
Whereas Uma Thurman is coming hard out the gate evil.
I mean, how else do you want Uma Thurman? That's the only way I want my Uma Thurman.
I found it just to be... I mean, I can see not wanting to have the only brown person... I can see them saying, oh, it's not good to put a Middle Eastern woman as Medusa.
Yeah, the one villain.
The one villain that we're running up against who's brown.
That I felt like they did correctly.
I could see doing that was better.
Yeah.
And putting her in a turban and sunglasses was less racially charged.
Yeah.
And I liked that they put a black actor for Grover when he wasn't specifically labeled or anything. In the book, it didn't matter whether he was black or not.
I think he was supposed to, like, maybe he was supposed to be sort of like a hippie kid, but he also wore like a Rasta cap.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, he could be either hippie or
I think when I was a
black.
kid, I also just thought he was black anyway. So maybe they
and all
had
these
the same
kids
thought.
talk in 2000s teen slang.
Yeah,
So
that is a little
it
painful.
doesn't matter how, like, they all talk kind of half gangster weird anyway in the book. I think that was part of its huge appeal
In the book?
to the kids reading the book at the time.
Yeah, I felt like it was done better in the book than the movie, because the movie, they were just kind of speaking very plainly, I guess.
Whereas he's a lot more creative as an author in the book of the way they talk, the way they, it's kind of like that Captain Underpants, like the same kind of kids who enjoy the Captain Underpants books, where we are irreverent and crude and it's funny and this is who we are. And I felt like the author was really good at bringing that out and making it good for children.
Yeah, like good kid humor, which, I mean, he was a sixth grade teacher, I think. So he'd have to develop a little bit of that anyway.
Yeah, so I felt like that part was done. I know I was looking up like different reviews and stuff of the Percy Jackson, and I found a couple that were like, oh, this is just trash. You shouldn't let your kids read such trash.
Yeah.
And it was really elitist. And I was like, no, that's not my problem with it, because a kid's book who speaks to the kids like kids will get them into reading.
Yeah.
I have a problem with these other themes, and I think that needs to be paid attention to.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with this style of writing.
Yeah. I do think that it is genuinely funny in spots, like early on when he's going to get in trouble with that one teacher, and he's like, oh no, they found out that I plagiarized my paper on Tom Sawyer. And he's like, they're going to kick me out, or even worse, they're going to make me read the book.
Yeah! There was some really witty stuff there that I could see a kid who's a snotty 12-year-old really saying, and I felt like that was really well done, and it was genuinely funny.
The thing about the mist, though, I don't like that concept very much.
The what?
The mist.
Mist.
Yeah, it was more of a thing in the book than in the movie.
Where humans can only see what they
only see
think
what they
they'll
want to see.
Yes, that wasn't brought up in the movie, and I was like baffled. I didn't understand the concept for most of the book. So,
it's very vague. It's
okay.
It has a kind of a vibe like the sheep don't want to see this kind of feeling to it.
More of that segregation on othering, because it's like, we can have this fight and they will have seen guns.
Yeah.
That was what was messing me up at the end, is Percy and Ares fight with swords.
And they were actually...
And cops nearby were saying, put down your
the
guns.
Yeah.
And it was like, and he was like, oh, I don't know what they're saying. But it's this idea that being half God means you see what's really happening. You see reality. And they cannot see reality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a little bit more that kind of othering... the sheep only see what they want to see kind of feeling, like conspiracy theorists come up with.
Feels like he should have had these powers all along. He should not be 12. And in the book, they do sort of half-assed, like, oh, he saw things, or he spaced out and forgot stuff, or people are like, I didn't see that, and he thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
But it really feels like if he can talk to horses, it should have happened before he's 12.
Yeah, it could have been a better
If he
lead
can see
up.
reality and other people can't, he should have been able to see this before now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't understand this whole, now he knows he's a god, and now he suddenly has the skills.
Yeah.
Those should have been apparent before now.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, him developing battle skills is even more egregious than it was, like, in Aragon.
And at least in Harry Potter, he talks to snakes and they think he's a creepy kid.
Yeah, there is a better lead up to
He magics the
that.
glass away and they're like, how could you, what did you do? And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know. And they're at least able to say, oh, this is a troubled kid because he is acting creepy and weird,
Mm-hmm.
and these weird things happen around him, and we can't explain it. Not enough happened in the book or the movie like that.
Mm-hmm.
It just, he got kicked out of school over and over and over, and we don't really know why.
Yeah.
He's a smart aleck, but that's not enough to get you kicked out of
Mm-hmm.
school.
I think that just, it's kind of swept under the rug of ADHD. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't get good grades because he's just not paying attention to school, which a lot of kids have that problem. I had that problem in school. I couldn't pay attention long enough to really, or I just didn't really care, I think is a good portion of it. Because I was a C and D student, kind of like Percy, and I identified with him because of that too. So.
Right. Did you feel like this was a little bit of a Harry Potter knockoff with Annabeth
absolutely.
being the Hermione? She has the strategy. She's the smart book one. And then Grover was the Ron. I'm over here having fun.
I made a note. While I was watching the movie, I made a bunch of notes about it just basically being Harry Potter.
Except Greek God.
Yeah, like they do the battle flag thing, and I said Percy catches the golden snitch. I mean, he catches the flag.
Yeah. And having the houses that compete. I even felt like...
that's like, it's a kind of more inclusive because there are like way more Greek gods than, because I remember doing that as a kid with other kids that read Percy Jackson. It's like, what Greek god house would you be in?
Yeah.
Instead of like a Hogwarts house, because this was my Harry Potter. I didn't give a shit about Harry Potter.
Oh, okay. I could see that being a lot more options because there's the 12 different cabins, and you could be like, well, I really love this thing, and that makes me aspire to do the things like this god. And even like Annabeth was saying, yeah, we get into architecture because our mom wants us to build things. And it's not just
It's not
fighting.
quite so limited, yeah.
Whereas in Harry Potter, you only have 4 houses, and they're just caricatures.
Yeah, and it's basically just like reading a horoscope. So...
I could see, I was thinking Rory would really enjoy this movie. Amy, not so much, because she's a bit older and probably would be like, it's whatever.
Yeah, I had that
but
thought
I could
too.
See
I thought he would like
an 8-year-old really being like, yeah, this is fun. Oh, exciting fights, you know?
Oh, what? Fun fact I thought about while watching the movie. The Minotaur is technically Percy's cousin, and then Percy just murders him.
They're all related to everybody.
I know, but that was a little more direct. Like, that's...
True.
So, King Minos, his wife slept with the Minoan bull, which was made by Poseidon, or maybe the bull himself was the son of Poseidon, I think. I think that's what it was. And yeah, I think that's basically Percy's cousin. I thought that was fun. That's also when they brought up the names have power things, because they're like, yeah, don't say the word Minotaur for some reason. I felt like that was just lifted whole cloth right out of Harry Potter.
Yeah, that happens a lot in different fantasy stories too, though. What did you think, though? Okay, in the book, I was a little shocked. They go in, I think they're in LA, and they jump into the store to avoid kids chasing them down, and it's a waterbed store.
Yeah.
And the
guy's going to stretch him into a bed.
The guy wants them to stretch to 6 feet long so they fit the beds. And so the beds have ropes, and Grover gets thrown onto one bed and Annabeth gets thrown onto the other bed, and the ropes grab their shoulders and are pulling them straight. And Percy is like talking to the giant who runs the store. And he's like, well, what do you do when they're over 6 foot long? He's like, you center them and you trim off the ends that reach over it. Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, show me how comfortable it is. And he kind of Brer Rabbits him and gets him to lay down on the bed. Then he chops this giant's just head off. Yeah. He just murders him. He could have just left him in the bed and just gotten Annabeth and Grover and left. And he just murdered him because he's like, well, if he's mortal, it won't hurt him anyway. Chop, and just murders this giant.
Yeah.
And I was like, mean, it's well established. A little extreme, Percy.
It is pretty hyper-violent, but it is already established at this point in the book that any of the monsters that die are only temporarily dead, like what's her name, Miss Dodds. She comes back like 3 times. And
hero is expected to go around killing them, and they're expected to go around killing him.
Yeah,
like it's just open season on heroes and monsters.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, that to me is just a little weird.
I like that a whole lot better than just Harry Potter, and they're just actually just going around researching shit and just exploring. Oh, yeah. And
especially toward the end with the Horcruxes and stuff.
I didn't care for that. I can't stay awake through the last couple of movies. I've never watched them all the way through.
I think we got through most of them with the kids, but I don't think we got through the last couple. I think I've seen them. It's just been such a long time.
So yeah, Mom gets fridged. That wasn't great. I felt I was like, oh yeah, she gets fridged. I'm
sent to
sad
Hades,
about that.
but she's not dead, so he can bring her
she's
back.
just out of the story. She's just out of Percy's sphere, so where she can't affect the story until at the end.
Except to motivate him to go to Hades and get her back. That's
she doesn't even do that in the book. Because that's actually just a naiad underwater with him, and he just thinks that she looks like. You mean just generally? He's.
Well, he knows that she disappeared in a shower of light in the book, and he knows He knows she's in the underworld because either she's dead or she's been taken away. Yeah. He wants to go to the underworld to see her. In both of them, his motivation to go to Hades is to get his mom.
Another thing. When he gets injured by the Minotaur and he wakes up in the infirmary and the main female character in the story is his nurse.
Annabeth?
Yeah, that's not great.
Well, because they just have to only use 4 people.
I know. It just bums me out. Like, you got one girl character and she has to be the nurse. So that kind of sucks.
She has to be everything.
She's the group mom. Just like
Which
Hermione.
I felt like, it was very much like Hermione. Who's going to think about feeding you lunch, making sure you're dressed, have you combed your hair, brushed your teeth? The girlfriend. The friend who is a female.
There is one thing that I thought was like really interesting in the book. So he's talking to Karen or Chiron, yeah.
Because Chiron is the horseman.
Yeah, and Karen
is the guy who lets you into the underworld.
So yeah, he's talking to Chiron, and he's asking about. So he says like, God's real, and Chiron's like, no, that's a whole different matter. A much smaller matter is these Greek gods, and I felt like that kind of sucked, right? Like, there are still people that practice. I think there are some people that still practice that. I was wondering how they would deal with
Christianity.
Yeah, they kind of just world. That's a much bigger matter than what we're doing right now, and I don't care for that.
It was weird. I don't know.
That's probably the best way you could handle doing that in a market in America. Like, that's a very smart thing to do. But I also feel like it's kind of demeaning to anyone that the Greek mythology is part of their culture, or there are some people that still believe in that as a religion. And that just kind of invalidates that.
Yeah, I really don't know how you would deal with it any other way, because like, he doesn't even address any other culture's gods, which at the time he had only started his world building. I know he expands it a lot later on. But yeah, that little sentence had actually thrown me for a loop, and I was like, oh, wait, what?
Which that helped me read this as a kid, because I was like really guilty just starting to read this, because it dealt with gods that weren't what I had grown up with, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to hell if I read this.
Yes. Yeah.
And that eased my mind at the time as a kid and allowed me to enjoy the story. And there's another comment at some point, but it's actually referencing Roman gods. That might be one of the later books, because there's another question about different gods, and it's referencing like the Roman gods.
In this one, it said that they became the Roman gods. They left Greece and went to Rome.
Yeah, and that's still sort of true. Like, it's an aspect thing. Like, the Roman versions are different aspects of the same individuals, but that's not here. That's a different one. Oh, and Annabeth has Joe's hat from You, that show. Did you guys watch that one?
I started watching that, yeah.
Yeah, every time he's trying to hide us, he just puts on the ball cap.
Call forward. Eos has that jacket.
Yeah. If you can't see me,
she puts on her jacket, you can't see her.
Eventually. We'll get there one day. Did you think, do goats eat cans? I know they're.
No.
I know it's funny that they eat like a lot of stuff, like they'll eat people's clothes and stuff like that. But that was like
Goats
really
enjoy
stupid, right?
chewing on things.
Yeah,
they like chewing and nibbling, and they are grazers, unlike sheep that are just eat everything in front of them, like in a straight line. Goats are very picky, and they enjoy eating at a lot of other things. If they're bored and hungry, eventually they'll eat anything because they're hungry.
Yeah.
I think it was taking the cartoon pop culture idea of goats and just sticking them on Grover, and it was just a joke.
Yeah, I just thought, as a kid, I thought it was kind of funny, kind of dumb now as an adult.
Yeah,
which I
because
mean,
he has to have a
way.
bag of tin cans to eat, and he eats them like potato chips. I did think it was really funny. They were playing cards at the table, and he was getting anxious about Dionysus chewing him out, and he started eating the playing cards. And I think that would have been more funny to show Grover in the movie when he has a case of nerves of just eating anything around him. That was pretty funny.
Back to Medusa. I thought the Auntie M thing, I thought that was cute.
That was
did
clever.
Like that, yeah.
That was clever. And then she has the Garden Gnome Emporium because everyone she looks at gets turned into stone.
Oh, and the two other characters, Annabeth and Grover, they have their own like interests. They've got their own outside lives in the book.
Yes.
And then in the movie, they're just, our only place in the world is being your friend for these events.
Next to you, helping you. Where I really liked in the book, Grover, his purpose is to have helped a hero on a quest in order to go on with his career, which is finder seeking Pan.
Yeah.
In the movie, it's just, we're your friends, we go with you, which is much more Harry Potter. Ron and Hermione of, we've just been friends with you for forever, so we have to go along with whatever bullshit thing you have in your brain this week. But I really did feel like they took away all of the fun things that made Annabeth and Grover special. And gave them to Percy.
Yeah.
They took away the shoes from Grover. They took away the hat.
Yeah, they did
and they only focused, because Percy does everything. He's a one-man show. He fights the Hydra, and he makes a water shield.
Wears the shoes.
He wears the shoes to go get the pearl. It just felt like, why are we so focused on this one character when the book was so much better about having depth with the side characters?
Disney just loves a one-man band.
Yeah, which kind of reminded me of last month's Bad Book, Bad Movie with that detective, and she was basically a one-man show in the book. She's like running that entire police force by herself, going and talking to suspects by herself, and doing every single thing on her own.
Will not delegate anything.
Will not delegate, and it's like, how many people do you have in this police department? Why is this one person not sleeping for 48 hours when you're supposed to be in shifts? And I understand some of the simplicity of the movie. You want it to be streamlined. You want it to be focused. But it's just shitty. Just let Grover have the shoes. It wouldn't have changed anything for Grover to be the one flying up to get the pearl off of the statue.
Yeah.
But then they had to take away the whole Zeus will strike you down if you're in the air.
Yeah, if you're in the sky.
Because in the book, he couldn't fly at all. Airplane or in the sky at all.
It's just
I think they just wanted
so
an
much
air fight between Luke and Perseus at the end of the movie, when that could have been a on-the-ground sword fight.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it to be flying anyway.
Well, if you notice in the movie, they have a massive CGI budget.
Apparently.
Because they didn't go to like any extraordinary locations or anything like that. So they took all that money and they sunk it into the CGI. And it's fucking... I hated looking at this movie. It looked like shit.
So we basically changed the fight between Ares and Percy into the fight between Luke and Percy.
Yeah.
And we make it into flying. And it also takes it away from him being at the beach fighting Ares. And when he could get into the water, he was stronger. And then Ares would scoot him up the beach and away from the water. And that was that would have been much more
showing
thrilling.
that the enemy in the fight actually has his own agency and isn't like a complete doofus.
Yeah, and it just felt like...
There's so much better context in the movie. I really feel like they shouldn't make movies out of stories like this. And I know it's just going to keep happening, but it's fucking stupid. And now they made a show. Do you plan on watching the show?
I don't know. I might watch an episode and see if it's good. I did like how they cast a black girl to play Annabeth, I think in the TV show that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And Riordan said, stop chewing her out for being black. Like, people were really throwing a tantrum about Annabeth being black.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm fine with it.
It's just like the Ariel thing.
The creator of the story, is fine with her being a black actor. Quit. And people are like, I want her to be the same as the source material. But they didn't throw a fit about her having blue eyes.
Yeah,
or brown
blue
hair.
eyes and black hair and fucking pale as the fucking clouds in the sky. I hate it.
Her big blue eyes.
I don't like the way she looks. I hate looking at her.
Creepy. Jay hates Anne Hathaway because she has those really big eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, the girl who played Annabeth has bigger, scarier eyes.
Yeah, her eyes were
Hathaway.
fucking spooky.
Like, she looked like she'd seen a ghost all the time. I wondered if they had a special light screen just pointing at her eyes the whole time.
I honestly,
I've
seen contacts that look like
in The
hers.
Hobbit that they put on the elves, where their eyes were just obscenely blue. So bizarre like looking. Let's finish up with the differences about the mom when she comes back and deals with Gabe. Gabe is Percy's stinky, nasty, gross stepfather.
And abusive to his mother, we find out at the end of the book.
We find out that he hits Sally. It's made clear in the book, I think in the movie too, but it's made clear that the reason she was with Gabe was because his stinky humanness masked Percy's presence. And that was why monsters couldn't find him, was because Gabe was so stinky and so human.
Yeah.
It covered him up.
So she had to deal with his abuse and stuff like that just for protection for her son.
Just for protection.
And Percy deals with that. He has to think about that. And also he's like, I'll fucking kill him.
Yes.
And Sally's just like, no, I'm going to make my own decisions. I've got my own agency. I'm going to take care of this. You go be a kid.
Yes.
Which, great. I love that.
In the book, that part is much better because, like, Gabe is chewing her out and where's my food? Where's my beer? And she's like, I'm coming. And he's like, Mom, I could just take care of this. And she's like, no, I didn't want Poseidon to build me a castle under the sea. I don't need my son to save me either. And she has consciously chosen to stay with this abusive asshole for her own personal reasons.
For now.
And now she's like, if I want to leave him, I will leave him. And now she doesn't have the fear of Percy being unmasked because he's already been unmasked. Everyone knows where he is and who he is.
Yep.
And in the movie, we skip a lot of that, and it's just she's packing up his shit and moving it out the door. And then Medusa's head is in the fridge, and he goes and opens the fridge.
And that's the end of it. That's the
Yeah.
it sucked.
Felt like in the book, his mom had so much more character, had so much more power, and was very clear on, you make decisions about your life, I'll make decisions about mine. We will try to still be a family and figure this out together. And in the movie, they just had to skip a lot of that because of time, and they don't give side characters that much in this.
Yeah, which I know you got to do that for a movie. You've only got 2 hours to tell like a concise story, but God, they fucked it up so bad.
Oh, what was the name of the guy who played Gabe? You told me. It was Cypher from the Matrix.
Oh, from the Matrix, yeah. God, he's such a good asshole
He's such
actor.
an asshole. He's so good at being asshole.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Slimy. Which he even stole Percy's money in the book.
Yeah.
I don't think in the movie we see any of that, but the entire book, he is drinking beer, playing poker,
demanding food. Yeah, real fucking douchebag.
Yeah.
I'm glad he got turned into a statue and got liquidated to pay for Percy's mom's college fund.
Because she realized that it was like her choice of, because Medusa's head was in a box on Percy's bed, and he's like, I can use what's in that box to solve your problems. And she's like, oh.
Oh, yeah, and some art collector is just like, yeah, this is like some great ugly art.
It's so realistic.
Yeah, I just like it in kids' books when they're just like shitting on just somebody just hard for no reason.
And then we do have the happy ending of his mom gets rid of Gabe, goes back to school, and is deciding to live her own new life. And I thought it was interesting, the really big difference between how Poseidon is toward Percy in the book versus the movie.
Yeah,
much more nuanced and much more complicated in the book. Movie him is just like, I'm proud of you, kid.
He's much warmer.
Back
yeah,
pat,
did the
love
exact
ya.
thing
the thing that in the book
he was
Percy
like, yeah,
was
I would have fucking hated him if he did that.
If he patted my back and said he was proud of me, I would fucking murder this guy. I would die sticking my tongue out and, giving him the bird. And that's the ending we get in the movie. But in the book, he's just like, doesn't know if his dad wants him to be around. His dad is definitely sorry he was born because it caused all these problems. Yeah. And it's also very much more true of toward the Greek mythology of, this is a complication. This is a problem. Yeah. You and existing is a problem, and also you're going to have a sucky, awful life because all of the heroes have sucky, awful lives.
Yeah. So it's a case of the dad isn't like love bombing you or anything like that. He's being honest with you. And that's honest. Why Percy, I feel like Percy respects him for it. Yeah.
Doesn't feel love. Neither of them feel love toward each other, which I think is actually a really good message that kids who are separated from their parents and then meet them as older children, I experienced
you don't have to love this person.
You don't feel love toward this person you've never known. You might be like, oh, I would like to, or I want to meet this person. But that doesn't just poof happen automatically, and they do that a lot in kids' movies, which I've always hated in kids' movies where it's, oh, this is your dad, and then suddenly you're best friends and love each other. It's like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
I did like in the book a lot more of how they dealt with the complicated feelings.
This is definitely... It shows a lot that there was like an empathetic, teacherly force behind writing this book.
And more of an understanding of mixed families. Stepdad, and I mean, it's almost like the wicked stepmom stereotype of how gross Gabe is. But it does show better the motivations of his mom, the feelings he has towards his dad and his stepdad, and in the book, at least, he's 12. He's getting to that age where fights with his stepdad are going to happen. And are going to become violent. And we even see that at the end of the book, where it's like, oh, he actually has some powers. His mom sees that this is going to be a problem of these two guys being in the same room.
And she's just automatically working to like keep them separate from each other.
Yes, to keep the peace, to walk on eggshells. And as an adult who's seen that kind of situation, who's seen those things, like, this was really masterfully done. So, yeah, I just had a couple of those, like, overall messaging that I just very much dislike.
Yeah.
But the author did really well in a lot of these other
Yeah.
things.
I feel like a lot the bad messaging was inadvertent. I don't think he
wanted to write a white supremacist novel
No.
for the white children. Like, I really, and especially later on, he grew and changed so much and included people of color and other ethnicities and cultures. And he really grew. In fact, I was reading another article that was like, the reasons Rick Riordan is so awful. And it was, we don't like how he's putting brown people in these books now.
I
was
came
like,
across
oh.
a couple like that.
Yeah. I was like, maybe if the racists are mad about his later work, maybe he really does change a whole lot. And this would be more out of ignorance than out of malice.
Yeah, I felt a lot of that, like, especially when I was a kid, I had a lot of those ignorances, and seeing that he's grown in his writing like that really makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, I was afraid we were going to go back to this, and I was going to be like, oh my God, one of my heroes when I was a child is a fucking asshole.
And I think for me, especially, I only read the first book. I don't know if I saw the movie or not. I feel like I vaguely did, but I don't remember. So for me, I didn't have any of that later material to pull from.
Yeah.
And it was only reading these articles and reading some of this other stuff. I was like, oh, okay, he did grow.
Yeah.
And we've had enough time also, because I read this in like 2008. Like, I think it was fairly new.
Yeah.
It was before the movie came out. And so there wasn't all that other material.
Yeah.
There wasn't the nuance and the further on. So yeah, I mean, I would give it a B. Like, I would say...
The movie or the...
The book.
Okay.
I would say give it a B because personally I have issues with the core messaging. But I can't stop my kid from watching. It's so common of you're special because of your blood. You're special because you're royal. You're special because you're this or that or the other. That's just one of those things that I personally hate. But it's so common.
Yeah.
If you tried to avoid that, it would just be impossible to watch anything.
Yeah. What grade do you give the movie?
I think it was up there with Aragon. My little 7-8-year-old kid would love it. And so good enough for him, so like a C.
Yeah.
And it had a very basic plot. It did have, a very just basic standard plot.
Yeah.
It was fine. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't good.
All right, so my letter grading. The book, I know I can't be biased. I can't not be biased about this.
Hey, this is a opinion
totally,
show.
I know. It's always going to be S tier in my mind. I acknowledge that it's got its faults.
A+++, because you love it.
Yeah. The movie, fuck you, F. I've carried hate in my heart for years over this movie.
You needed to get this out.
No one's asked me my opinion about this movie, and I feel like that's a problem.
And you know what's hilarious is I'm the purist. I'm the one who, if they deviate one iota from the book, I hate the movie. And this one I was like, I don't care. Because it wasn't that important to me, whereas like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, those were so deeply important to me that any change makes me irate. And so it's really funny we have the opposite in this situation, because most of the time you're like, it was fine, it's whatever.
I mean, it's
and I know
it is a little bit it is a little bit the purism to it a little bit, but it's also just they fucked up telling the story so bad.
Yes.
I would accept it if they cut out some stuff, but they did like a meager substitute. That was the best they could. I make exceptions for shit like that, but fuck this movie.
They changed the core plot. They changed some of the core messaging.
Took out one of my favorite characters, Echidna, the mother of all monsters. Fuck you for that.
They took out a lot of characters.
So yeah,
I really hate the fact that they took away Annabeth and Grover's special skills and special fun stuff.
Because
that pissed me off the most.
That is a continuing theme throughout the rest of the books. Is other kids just keep getting more abilities and they have their own special things. Like there's a kid with like severe ADHD who's I think he's like LA Latino, and he like boosts cars and shit. And he's a really funny character. I think he's like a son of Hephaestus, and he like makes stuff in order to steal stuff.
Fun.
Or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, I'm satisfied with how we've done this this episode.
Yeah. So until next time.
Don't make Poseidon ginger.
And you know what? He was wearing a cool Hawaiian shirt in the book.
It should have been like someone like Jason Momoa or something.
Yes, he was a beach bum. They completely put him in the Greek robes and made him dumb.
And he's fucking... Why did they make the sea god ginger?
I don't know.
I'm fine with gingers. It's okay, Producer Jay. I just don't think Poseidon should be ginger.
Until next time, don't be ginger.
I'll fucking get you.
Bye.
Bye.